How do we cope with grief in its rawest form, when a life we love, despite cherishing it every step of the way, is taken from us far too soon? The memories that could have been made, the bond that would only continue to grow over time. For many, including myself, there's no greater escape than a good story, not only from grief, but from the bleakness of this incredibly draining world we live in. On top of the everyday stresses, the bills, illness, isolation, just genuinely trying to get by a day to day, and still feeling like yourself by the end and not some husk. Our world is still drowning in tragedy, wars, invasions, poverty, classist elitism, pollution, animals that we disregard solely through human greed, despite our incompetence, something in our DNA still has enabled us to become the dominating species on the planet. To be honest, I'm not sure how people can get by without the stories, considering all of this. Even as a kid, I felt so strongly that reality has a sense of inescapable hopelessness through all of this suffering in the world. Maybe also because I was bullied as a kid, I had a complex relationship with my dad, and being autistic, anxiety seemed to constantly surround me. And with the power of the internet, I had a strong grasp of what nuclear annihilation meant around age 7. That was until I played some Kingdom Hearts for a few hours, or read some Marvel comics, which was way less cool, or I watched The Matrix. Finding these worlds of such engagement, so much you can close your eyes and imagine you're there in the heat of the action with the characters. Suddenly, all those problems, all that suffering I felt inside, would simply disappear. Naturally, the more narratives and stories we experience, the more self-aware we become, able to read between the lines of a text and better understand how its meaning affects us on an emotional level. Especially if you're someone like me who first watched American Psycho one late evening, aged 10. All this to say, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of the best gaming narratives I have ever experienced, with dialogue that feels genuine and gives us an honest conversation around how grief makes us feel throughout its perfectly paced runtime. We'll be going to deep spoiler territory as I unpack both endings, what they were trying to say about escapism to avoid our losses. It's an incredible experience when a game like Final Fantasy can capture how it feels to fall deeply in love with someone, only to lose them very soon afterwards. Metal Gear can teach us to question our family legacies, to consider their ideals, which can be very painful but necessary. That we need to form our own ideologies, even when that means putting the final part of that person we have to rest. The Last of Us can make us feel like we're holding on to our own child passing away in our arms, powerless to do anything but let fate take its cruel course. Narratives that almost point to you directly and ask, how do you relate to this pain? From the moment Maëlle was introduced in Clair Obscur through Gustave's perspective, you feel a sense of obligation towards her. She's your adoptive sister, someone to look out for through your expedition, in an attempt to stop the Paintress once and for all. That is, until Gustave gets Sean beamed. Suddenly your perspective on the narrative completely changes. Not only have we lost Charlie Cox, Maëlle lost her own brother who vowed to protect her through this whole journey. In this game's real world, she is Alicia, who lost her brother Verso during a fire in a family home that left her unable to speak, and she was scarred from the intense flames. This entire expedition, this world as Maëlle, is a fiction she's escaped to, inside a canvas which acts as a portal into this world. This includes the fictional immortal version of her brother Verso as part of the party, who acts as a mainstay after Gustave's death. The canvas, painted by Verso in the real world before he died, is the sole part of him that remains after his death, and is the only way the family can continue to see him and experience his passion. The family have an obsession over the canvas. Alicia's mother, Aline, the Paintress, exists in the canvas fighting back her husband, the husband Renoir, who wants to see his family out of the canvas so he can destroy it and end the obsession that's tearing his family apart, so then together they can grieve for the loss of their family member in the real world and do so healthily. The game waits to reveal this at the perfect moment. Once you defeat the Paintress and victory is assumed, everyone that exists within the canvas is wiped out by Renoir. In defeating the Paintress, Aline is then pushed out of the canvas, meaning Renoir could purge the canvas of life and try to return his daughter to the real world and finally destroy the painting at the cost of every soul within that world. This is when Maëlle and Alicia become one. She is reminded of the loss of her voice, the isolation of her real life, and the pieces of her family that have shattered through this huge loss of Verso. This is around the time when my favourite scene occurs, the beautiful operatic version of the main theme playing, as we see the life of Maëlle through Alicia's eyes. told by her adoptive mother in the canvas of Lumiere. I'd already cried at the game a few times, but I genuinely had to pause it and take 5 after this. It reflects so much on how short and how wonderful our time together can be. She opts to return to the canvas to reunite with the party, and with her newly discovered power over this world, restoring the party to life, including Verso created within the canvas. This Verso had read Alicia's letter. This is the variant of Alicia who exists within the painting, who enabled Verso to fully understand the context of his own existence. Near the end of the game's narrative, the created Verso meets the child version of himself who continues to paint to ensure the canvas continues. This is the final piece of the real Verso, which has made the family obsess over the canvas so much. The child trapped inside a state of limbo until the family all break free of the canvas, so this piece of Verso can also finally be laid to rest. The painted Verso pleads with Alicia. This cycle cannot continue, the family needs to move on, that his mother and Alicia's obsession will end up killing them, but that ultimately he doesn't wish to continue to exist within this loop, unable to die or escape the canvas. He does not want to continue, even if that costs everyone within Lumiere. During this time, the player then chooses either to fight as Mael or as Verso, which alters the ending you unlock. Personally, I picked to fight as Mael, mostly because I saw this as her journey up until this point throughout the game. After defeating Verso, he pleads with Alicia one more time. This proves a meaningless effort as we see Lumiere after the Paintress and Renoir have been defeated, and Mael has brought everyone back who is taken. Despite this happy ending, there is a sense of numbness to her expression. As she brings the young version of her brother Verso to see a play, we see the party waiting for their arrival, Ciel reunited with her husband, Gustave and Sophie entering holding hands. Then the show begins. It's another Verso, playing the piano as he always said he loved, with a cold look in his eyes at Alicia. He seems to understand what's happening, that none of this is real, but only exists for Alicia to escape her bleak reality. For a few seconds, we see Alicia's true form. The potential years of existing within the canvas have forever damaged her eyes beyond repair, the skin around them now even more scarred than the burns she faced in the real world. A passion has become an obsession, and as Verso feared, this will consume the remainder of her life. This ending had a profound impact on me. It has so much to say about relying on narratives, art, and the limits of using our vices to avoid confronting deeper issues that we can't avoid forever. Alicia's passion has dissolved away into obsession. Despite her promise to Renoir, she has no intention of returning to the real world to face the grief with her family. She will continue to exist within the painting, repressing the pain of losing her brother with the 2 or 3, counting Gustave, fictional versions of her brother that lack any sense of autonomy around her. The denial and addiction has really taken hold of Alicia, repressing her grief and unable to move on within the real world. Along with this idea of using art to escape grief, I am reminded of the themes of Blade Runner, Her, Westworld, and Ex Machina. As we've established, everyone within Lumiere is essentially a fictional character within the game's narrative. Does this make their interactions, the joy of being reunited with their loved ones, any less meaningful? Does it matter if you can't tell? If you ask Alicia, the answer seems to be yes. There seems to be a sense of guilt she feels for forcing Verso to continue playing, forever existing within this loop, screaming to himself that he wants to be free, knowing that Alicia will never let him go and face her reality. The sense of cruelty applied through the whole Desandra family towards the painted characters of Lumiere makes you feel they are unable to choose their own path, and they can only continue based on what is painted before them. We live in a time where an AI version of Daenerys Targaryen can significantly alter the course of a life. Is there any real difference between the ways in which we obsess over characters and Alicia's means of using the canvas to escape from the loss of her brother, her voice, and her sense of identity in the real world? I was reminded of when I lost my nan at age 15. We were incredibly close. At the time, for the first couple of days after it happened, I was really numb to the whole situation. All I did was play Metal Gear Solid 4 back to back for the next week. I didn't want to exist in the real world. Going back to school a week later, I found solace in the library, and that really got me through. Let's flip the coin and instead consider Verso's ending. In this version, upon defeating Mael, or Alicia, she is essentially booted out of the canvas by Verso, giving him the opportune moment to convince his Horcruxy child self to stop painting. The canvas can halt and finally be destroyed. In doing so, Verso sees the whole party, Monoko, Esquier, but no Francois. Ciel seems gutted at the circumstance, but understands why Verso has to make this choice. Lune refuses to forgive him and feels she's lost a sense of control over her whole existence. She sits in front of the portal, simply waiting for her fate to wash over her. This was the moment from the ending that really struck me most of all, and shows how Clair Obscur's incredible narrative makes the player challenge their thoughts on this dilemma. Surely, if this is how the real family can continue to move on from their grief, doesn't this make the most sense? Not necessarily if, like me, you still feel a sense of sadness from this outcome. For Lune especially, I wish there was a way what we could do as the player. The fate she feared this whole time was confirmed to her to be inevitable, like the last time you feed your Tamagotchi or take your Nintendo out for a walk. There's a real sense of guilt that doesn't even really make sense, but you still feel it. Does it matter if you can't tell? During the epilogue of this, we see Alicia, Renoir, Aline and Claire at Verso's grave, finally able to accept his loss together, despite the moment being incredibly sad. There's a real sense of hope and bittersweetness between the family. This is the first time we see them not fighting or acting cold towards each other. Maybe a life beyond such a tragedy is possible. Alicia sees her friends from the canvas one last time before they fade away forever, like a childhood imaginary friend. There is an inevitability to this ending. I've seen many consider this to be the canon ending. There's only so long you can ignore the pain we feel without telling ourselves, even out loud, this is real. For every book you read, there's a point in the evening you have to slap that bookmark inside and close it to get some rest. We cherish characters and fiction over our lifetimes. It's easier than trying to search for the finer details in life when there could be so much hurt. But there is a beauty in this world, even during our moments of great pain. There's tranquility in a walk through the park, to take some deep breaths and watch the birds. An honest conversation with a loved one can really help, or just trying to focus on happy moments you have with someone you've lost. Sometimes it's so when you can close your eyes and reach out to feel them. Like Alicia, we all have our own situations to come to terms with, moments of shock that really impact us. Last month I lost another nan, my great nan on my mum's side, and a week later my cat died, which also was just such a shocking moment. And I've been able to really reflect on the great moments I had in the time we had him. My cat was really special to me. His name was Leon, and I've never had a pet that was so expressive and really just always there. There wasn't a time that passed by where he wasn't in the background, he wasn't up to something, and I'm going to miss that for a very long time. Finding closure in a healthy way is key to tackling depression through traumatic events. When you feel ready, embrace your feelings, let them out, question them, talk about them, because ultimately, your exploration can help you to find good in the present. When you build a better understanding of yourself after these events, you can build resilience and continue to grow. Maybe, like Alicia, you have passion like painting you can share with the world. It turns all this pain into something truly beautiful to share with others who may feel the same. They may also feel the hurt you're facing in the world. They will feel the struggle you're going through. You're not alone in this. Taking both endings into context, one experience almost feels incomplete without the other. The first thing you ask yourself after playing the game is, did I pick the right one? As with a game like Fire Emblem Three Houses, out of the choices you make, there will always be a preferred outcome that you'll have in your mind. However, I felt Clair Obscur's approach to multiple endings felt more like Silent Hill 2, with each ending taking on different meaning that is really open to interpretation, but feels like a part of the same thread and the same overall message the writers are trying to convey. Verso's conviction towards the ending of the canvas comes from two very intense feelings. First of all, he wishes for his family in the real world to move on from all this pain, rather than lose themselves and do so within the canvas. A common phrase you hear when you lose someone is, they'd want you to be happy, to be truly happy. And that cannot happen if we don't take the time to process the pain, to cherish those important moments, and find our own therapies to go on with our new chapter of our life. Verso also wishes to be free, knowing that he isn't real, the entire world he exists in is an illusion, and that he is subject to the power of his real-world sister, or his real-world mother, is something he cannot tolerate. He's like Frankenstein's creature, without his own autonomy. There is a deep sense of anger he has about this whole situation. Verso can only plead with Maëlle after she defeats him to be unpainted. As Maëlle, Alicia has godlike powers of being able to end this entire world for all the characters within Lumiere. Her own refusal to face facts and to return to her real family means she'll never have the chance of moving on. Verso pleads with Alicia, who even without her voice has this incredible ability to paint, a gift she can share with the world, and rediscover her voice once more through this art form. By ignoring his words and her own response to these traumatic events, Alicia is giving herself even more pain in the long run. The isolation will not only impact her well-being, but her family's. Renoir is grieving not only for the boy he lost, but also for the daughter he's losing to every second she spends in the canvas, fixated over the obsession. And the same to his wife as well, who, if the painting isn't destroyed, will likely return. Within Alicia, there is a sense of identity to her that is now broken, because she doesn't see what's right in front of her. She can share this grief through her art, so people she loves can connect with her and understand that she's not alone as well. Using the grief in her art and continuing to paint multiple canvases rather than escaping to this single one her brother created means she could find an authentic way that's also therapeutic to overcome her trauma and to help others do so in the same way. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 became a cautionary tale of treasuring every moment with our loved ones. We never know when the last time we see them will be, but also it can be easy to obsess over these moments, the mistakes we made, a future we saw before us that now exists only as a fantasy within our minds. The key is to find the right balance and a healthy approach to overcoming our traumas, to build a better understanding of ourselves so we can continue to grow, to reflect and hold the memories of our loved ones tightly, but to be kind to ourselves, to remember that we are only human and that, like the expeditioners, despite the odds and whatever comes, we continue. Just to say, if you've watched this far, thank you so much for going all the way through. There was a lot to go through, and I really want to get this all off my chest from my own experience and the funny time that happened to play the game that really matched up with everything I was going through. And I'm going to leave some resources below and points of contact if you are feeling low, because I know a lot of things I discuss in this video can affect us all. That's it really. Thank you for listening or watching, whichever you do.
Parfois used to be all wee, but now is all ooh.